I'm Nathan and I'm 34. I've always been the serious one, you know. Always doing the right thing, pulling my weight, and then some while my whole family seemed fine just coasting along. I'm not rolling in dough, not even close, but I've been working since I was 22, saved like crazy, never got hitched, no kids. So that meant I was the go-to guy, the unspoken cash machine. And I never ever whined, at least not where anyone could hear me. For years, I helped my parents with their bills whenever my dad's retirement check wasn't enough. I bylaid my brother Josh out of credit card hell when his wife went overboard planning a baby shower. I even co-signed for their car, and naturally, they forgot to pay, which messed up my credit score for a good while. But still, I kept showing up. Birthdays, holidays, even random Tuesday dinners, always with a bottle of something or a gift, trying to stay relevant, trying to convince myself I belonged. But that whole idea crashed and burned at this year's family reunion. The invitation showed up in the mail, the kind with too much glitter glued on and a little, "We hope you can make it this year" vibe. It had a note at the bottom, posted at my parents' house, which said catered as usual and RSVP required. I did, of course, and on time, being as polite as I could, with a note saying I'd bring a gift basket. I even picked one out myself. Local honey, some fancy cheeses, a couple of gourmet jams, the whole thing wrapped in cellophane with a blue satin bow. I pulled into the driveway that afternoon, and wow, the place was a total madhouse. Cars were parked up and down the street, balloons bobbed from the mailbox, and kids were splashing around in the sprinklers. It looked like one of those perfect family gatherings you see in the movies, picture perfect from the outside anyway. I walked up the path, basket in hand, forcing a smile. I was trying, really trying to be part of things, to fit in. But the second I stepped inside, I felt it. This weird, quiet shift in the air, you know? People's eyes just kinda glazed right over me like I was some extra piece of furniture. My cousin Mark barely acknowledged me before going back to whatever he was yapping about. Aunt Debbie gave me one of those stiff hugs, the kind you give a coworker you barely tolerate. And then, right behind the dessert table, I spotted the seating chart. Huge names in gold marker on this giant whiteboard, tables drawn all over the place, and every single seat assigned. And there it was, my name, my whole name, with a big black X slashed right through it. For a second, I thought maybe it's a mistake. Maybe they'd shuffled things around and forgot to erase the old plan. But nope. Right underneath where my name had been, in tiny letters, it said extra guest. Before I could even process it, I heard her, "Oh God, you actually came." It was Amanda, my brother's wife. She was decked out in this crazy floral dress like she was trying out for some reality TV show or something. She was holding a mimosa plastered on a fake smile, but her voice was dripping with sarcasm. "Didn't you get the message last year?" she asked, already turning away, chuckling. "We figured you'd blow us off again." Before I could even say anything, I spotted my mom across the room. I half-heartedly waved, and she started heading my way. For a second, I actually hoped maybe she'd be nice. You know, welcome me, make things right. Nope, she just rolled her eyes. "Please," she mumbled, walking right past, not even bothering to stop. "Just don't embarrass us this time, okay? Last year's toast was bad enough." A toast. I hadn't even given a toast. I said one sentence thanking Grandma. That's what they called embarrassing. My grip tightened on the gift basket. My throat went completely dry. And then it hit me. Not in a big, explosive way, but slowly, like a chill creeping down my back. I didn't matter to them. I was just there to fill a seat, a walking wallet, a name on a list they only cared about when they needed something. I didn't say a word. I didn't fight back. I just walked to the kitchen, put the basket down real gently, fixed the ribbon, and walked out the front door. I didn't look back. I don't think they even noticed right away, or if they did, they didn't care one bit. I drove away in silence, windows down, not angry, just empty. Like something inside me had quietly shattered, and the wind was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. That was the first time I felt that. I just couldn't bring myself to go back. I skipped the next day, didn't even look. I ignored my mom's whole group text, that big family photo thing with all those heart emojis and so blessed crap. I just stopped. And man, things went south fast. First, Dad's electricity got cut off. Turns out the automatic payments I'd been handling for a year, poof, gone. Then Josh called, freaking out. His card got declined at some restaurant. He thought it was a glitch at first, you know, until he realized the joint account I'd been secretly keeping stocked for emergencies was empty. But the real meltdown started when the checks bounced. My mom, she sent these monthly checks to her church and that garden club she's always in. She'd always brag about how she donated from the heart. Yeah, right, those checks were from my heart. For years, I'd been transferring money into her account like clockwork the first of every month. This month, nothing. That's when the voicemails started pouring in. Dad's voice was all tight and formal. "Nathan, something's wrong with the power bill. Call me back." Then Josh, bro, what happened with the card? Amanda's furious. And finally, Mom, please call us, we need to talk. You're overreacting, they always said, always. It was always me overreacting. Whenever I didn't let them walk all over me, whenever I dared to ask for a little respect. At the end of that first week, I had a mountain of messages, 15 voicemails and almost 30 texts. Some were begging me to talk, others were seriously pissed. Amanda sent one that said, I don't get what you're doing, but you're hurting us all. Us, that word didn't fit anymore. I didn't say anything back, but I didn't block anyone either. I wanted them to stew in it, to feel even a little bit of what I felt. I was at that reunion, and I saw my name crossed out while everyone else drank and acted like I was the punchline. The voicemails kept coming. 2 weeks later, my phone was filled with guilt trips, half-hearted apologies, and kind of nasty threats. My dad left a long one, trying to keep it together, but you could hear the anger. Nathan, we just don't understand why you're doing this. We raised you better than this. Why would you punish your family over something like a seating chart? A seating chart. That's how small they thought it was. That's how little they cared about what happened. Not just at the reunion, but for years. And the more they tried to make it seem like it wasn't a big deal, the more I knew they'd never get it. To them, I was only worth something if I could do something for them. I didn't answer. Not to that voicemail and not to Amanda's message a couple days later where she actually had the nerve to say, Look, I'm sorry if you felt left out, but you need to grow up and stop acting like everything is about you. Then she added in this super fake voice, We're all dealing with stuff. You think you're the only one who's ever been in a tough spot. That thought really messed with me for days. See, I'd been struggling in silence for so long. There were weeks in my 20s where I ate nothing but ramen noodles just so my brother's car wouldn't get taken away. I skipped vacations, birthdays, even put off going to the dentist, something I desperately needed all to make sure my parents' heat stayed on in winter. And every single time I hoped, just hoped, they'd say thanks or maybe even treat me like I mattered, not just another expense. Nope, but I didn't just stop helping, I got organized. I went through every single subscription, every account, every little thing I'd signed up for over the years. I'd completely forgot how many streaming services I was paying for. My mom's HBO, the one she used for her murder mysteries, vanished one Tuesday night. 2 days later, Josh texted, Dude, did you change the Netflix password? Amanda freaked out too. I didn't reply. Then came the memberships. My dad's golf club, poof, gone. The family phone plan, I switched everything to my account and left theirs hanging. They were on their own with that one. And the utilities, that was the most intense part. I'd been paying their electricity, gas, and internet automatically. I canceled it all, but I waited until the bills were due just past the grace period, you know. Let them feel the pinch. It was just long enough for the lights to go out one Thursday, making them more puzzled than pissed off. That's when the calls started to sound different. My mom completely lost it. She called me 3 times in an hour. The third message was icy. I don't know what kind of payback you think you're getting, Nathan, but this is just mean, she said. We're your family, and families don't just ditch each other when things get tough. That whole families don't ditch each other line, I sat there in the quiet for a long time after that. Not because I wasn't sure what I was going to do next, but because I was sure for the first time in a long time. It was clear as day. They had already ditched me. Not physically, no, but emotionally, spiritually, intentionally. At every holiday where I ate alone, at every birthday where the card came late or not at all. At every family photo where I was either cut out or told to get lost. They'd left me ages ago. I was finally just returning the favor, but they didn't just leave it at the guilt trip. Things got worse. Amanda called me directly a few days later. I almost didn't pick up, but I was curious. What is wrong with you? She yelled. Your parents are in their 60s, Nathan. You can't just cut them off like this. They're embarrassed. Your mom had to ask me for money for groceries. Good, I said with no feeling at all. She paused. I could practically hear her jaw drop. I'd never talked like that before. You think you're teaching us a lesson? She said, her voice getting louder. You're just proving what we already knew, you know. You're selfish, heartless. That's why you're all alone. That one really got to me, I gotta admit. But instead of blowing up, I just said, maybe I'm alone because I was never really with people who actually cared about me. Then I just hung up. After that, I started sleeping a whole lot better. It was like the quiet was finally mine. I didn't have to wait for phone calls. No more of that nervous feeling every time my phone would light up. I silenced their numbers, not blocked, you know. I wasn't trying to be mean. I just didn't want to hear them anymore. It probably would have ended there, you know. I would have just quietly slipped away, left them to deal without me. But then I found out about this secret account. Turns out Josh had quietly put me on a business loan 2 years back without even telling me. He said I'd get his support if I got serious. Well, he did it again, and this time it was a mess. Amanda's bakery idea crashed and burned in like 6 months, and guess whose credit was getting hammered by all the missed payments? Mine. I just stared at the screen forever after I saw that notice. It was buried in an email from the bank with some boring subject line about account status. And in that email was a sentence that hit me like a ton of bricks. You are listed as a cosigner on this delinquent business loan. Your credit score has been negatively impacted. I didn't even have a clue what loan they were talking about. My heart pounded as I checked my banking app, then really looked at the numbers. A $25,000 loan to some business called Sugar Bell Bites Amanda's Bakery under my name. I felt physically ill. It all came flooding back a blurry Thanksgiving 2 years ago. Amanda showed up with those awful macarons, so dry and sugary they practically disintegrated in your mouth. She talked about opening a bakery. Later, Josh leaned in and whispered, "If you ever want to be in on something big, now's your chance." I just laughed it off. I didn't sign anything, or so I thought. Apparently, Josh used some old digital form I'd signed for a joint account way back when we were in our 20s, and he had all those crazy get-rich-quick schemes. He somehow twisted that signature around, or maybe even forged something else entirely. Whatever he did, the bank held me responsible. They defaulted 6 months prior, 6 months, and hadn't said a word. You'd think I'd be screaming mad, but I wasn't. I was just frozen. Like someone flipped a switch inside me. I sat there staring at the screen and mumbled to myself, "Okay, you want to play dirty? Let's do this." I went to work, gathering every email, every old document, every text message screenshot where Josh bragged about the bakery being his and Amanda's baby. I found old bank statements showing I hadn't touched that account in years. Then I called the bank and started the fight to get my name removed from that loan. I knew it would be a long haul, but I was dead set on this. But that wasn't the only thing. I wasn't gonna just sit back and protect myself. I wanted them to feel the sting too. I finally understood they weren't just spoiled, they were out of control, and their carelessness was messing with my life. I got in touch with a lawyer. I'd never done that before, but I found someone who knew all about financial scams. After I explained everything and showed him the papers, he stopped and said, "You have a case." A case that shifted everything. I gave him the go-ahead. At the same time, I took a different tack. I started with Amanda's Bakery's page. It was still up on Facebook and Instagram, full of fake happiness and deals on cupcakes. I noticed the comments had started to disappear around the time the loan blew up. I put a nice but public comment under one of her recent posts, wondering if you ever gave refunds to the people who never got their orders when the bakery closed. Within an hour, it had 5 likes and 2 replies. Both were from folks saying they'd ordered stuff and got nothing. One even asked for my lawyer's contact info. Josh called me at midnight that night. I didn't answer. Then I went to the family group chat. I hadn't said a word in there since before the family get-together. I'd been totally silent, but now I typed out one simple message. "Just so you know, Josh and Amanda wrongly put me down as a co-signer on a $25,000 loan that went south without my permission. I've hired a lawyer." So a couple of people bilayed on the group chat after I dropped that bomb about the money. Dead silence for a minute, then poof, gone. Mark, my cousin, hit me up separately. "Seriously? What the heck is going on with them?" I didn't even bother to answer. Didn't need to. A week later, my lawyer filed the paperwork. Josh and Amanda got served at their place. I wasn't there, but a neighbor, someone I used to work with ages ago, filled me in. Apparently, Amanda went totally nuts on the poor guy serving the papers, and Josh was all, "This is a misunderstanding. We're family." Family. That word again. I swear I thought that would be the end of it, but nope. Mom called the next morning. She sounded wiped out. Her voice, usually so sharp and dismissive, was all soft and shaky, like she knew the ground was falling out from under her. "Nathan," she said, we didn't know about the loan. Your brother didn't tell us." I just kept my voice even. "That doesn't change anything, Mom. I get you're hurt, but this is crazy. Do you really need to drag this into court?" "Yes," I said, a long pause. Then, "We're family," she said. "You used to help us. You used to care." "I did care," I said, "and I still do. But caring doesn't mean letting people walk all over me again and again." She didn't say anything back. The call ended. Later, I got this huge email from Josh, all rambling and stuff. It started with, "Look, man, I screwed up," and ended with, "Please don't ruin my life over one stupid mistake." It wasn't just one screw-up, though. It was a whole life of them, and I was flat out done being the one who always had to fix everything. I haven't been to a single family thing since. They still have them, though. My cousin posts photos, sometimes smaller get-togethers now. No fancy balloons, no catered food, and for sure no seating charts. Last I knew, Josh had to take out a loan with a crazy high interest rate just to keep up with the bills. After the bank took my name off everything, Amanda vanished from social media. And my parents, they moved, sold the house without making a big deal about it. No announcement, nothing. Just a moving truck and a change of address card that landed in my mailbox one day. I didn't even bother sending anything back. I was just done. Months went by. The quiet after all the legal stuff was almost weird. For the first time since I became an adult, my phone wasn't constantly blowing up with people asking for money, guilt-trippy reminders about family, or whining about how tough they had it. No more group texts, no more voicemails. No more fake birthday parties where the only reason I was invited was because someone needed me to foot the bill for the food. I didn't just walk away from the mess. I completely erased that whole way of life. Suing Josh and Amanda wasn't about the money. It wasn't even about the hit my credit took, even though that was a pain to fix. It was about something bigger, something I couldn't even put into words until I was sitting there in my lawyer's office, looking at all the proof. What I really craved wasn't an apology, it was recognition. The kind those folks offered was worthless, but I wanted something solid, something that stuck, something out in the open. And that's exactly what I got. Eventually, Josh crumbled. His lawyer contacted me a few weeks before our court date, and they offered a complete settlement. Josh would pay back the loan, clear my name with the bank, and sign a legal affidavit. It would state in black and white that I had nothing to do with that bakery and that my name was used without my permission. I agreed, but only if one thing happened. The whole agreement had to be filed with the court. I wanted it as part of the public record. I wanted it documented somewhere it couldn't be swept under the rug later. They weren't thrilled at first, but I stood my ground. Finally, they gave in. I got everything I wanted, and more importantly, I had the proof. I sent a copy of the notarized affidavit to my parents. No letter, just the signed, stamped pages with Josh's shaky signature at the bottom. They never said a word. I didn't anticipate a response, but I did hear from someone else. My Aunt Melissa, one of the few relatives who'd always treated me like a person, called me a few days later. She hadn't been at that awful family reunion, but she'd heard things. She said she didn't get the whole picture until she saw the court papers online. She said, "You know, I always wondered why you looked so exhausted at those family gatherings, like you were just waiting for someone to let you off the hook." I didn't know what to say. So I just blurted it out. I finally let myself off the hook, I guess. She actually laughed. Good, I thought. It was about time someone did. Then Melissa started inviting me to little get-togethers, dinner, coffee, stuff like that with her and her family. No fake smiles, no acting. It felt weird at first, you know. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it never did. It was at one of those dinners, maybe the 5th or 6th one, that this huge thing hit me. I could just choose what I wanted. Not earn it, not barter for it, not beg for crumbs, just choose. So that's exactly what I did. I got a new phone number. I took a little vacation, my first one in ages. Nothing fancy, just a cabin in the mountains. I read, I wandered around, slept in, ate whatever I felt like. And when I got back, I signed up for a pottery class. Didn't tell a soul, just went. And little by little, I built a whole new life. One that wasn't all about what others expected or feeling ashamed. Every now and then, I'd hear bits and pieces of gossip about the old crew. Amanda tried another business thing, some online baking classes. Didn't work out. Josh got a job selling cars. Sounds like he's really struggling to make sales. They put their house on the market, the one they bought, with a budget they clearly couldn't handle. And my parents? I heard they downsized to a condo somewhere quieter. I heard they started going to a new church. Guess they were looking for a clean slate, or maybe just some new faces who didn't know what they'd done. I never went to see them, not even once. And honestly, I didn't feel bad about it. Because the thing is, I'd given them so many chances, way more than I should have. I showed up when I was supposed to, I paid my dues, I put up with everything. All I ever wanted back was to be treated with some basic respect. A place at the table, not being ignored, a voice that wasn't mocked. They couldn't even do that, so I just stopped trying. Maybe someday they'll figure out that losing me wasn't about money. It wasn't about who was in charge. It was about how many times you can push someone away before they just walk away for good. But I don't care about that anymore. A year after the reunion, I had a little dinner at my place, just 6 people. My Aunt Melissa and her husband, a couple of my work friends, and a neighbor I'd gotten friendly with. I cooked everything. Nothing crazy, just pasta, some roasted veggies, some drinks. No assigned seating, no important people table, just folks who wanted to be there. We all laughed, we shared stories. Nobody demanded anything. Nobody was keeping track of anything. At some point, my neighbor raised his glass and said, "The family we choose." And for the first time in a long while, I raised my glass with no hesitation. "To peace," I said, "to my own fresh start." And that was the end of anything to do with them.